we're closely doing sales. We're closely with our marketing team. Just how to message correctly and target correctly. So I don't do any of that on the back end, but I find the work fascinating. So I just like to keep up to, I guess, what are the latest and greatest, I guess, strategies. So I come to this every month. How about you?
But when I saw they were talking about marketing stack inside the account, I've technically should take web management, project management, and I get a chance to marketing automation type stuff. Marketing full time a few years ago, and I was like, I do not want to get involved with that. You're the people that I block with my browser. I don't want to do that. And now I wish I really had, because I'm trying to adapt the digital marketing tools for open data, for open data portals like the city office. And how rather than being an e-commerce sale, I'd have an outline and that conversion. So instead of a my button, download button, kind of mapping all of the processes they use for marketing to make money, trying to map out a way to adapt those to help people get data sets that learn more about the community.
Sounds awfully technical.
It is kind of technical. I'm probably not the best person for the job, but no one who's doing it.
That's hilarious. That's fascinating, though.
It is. It's really interesting.
It's almost like as if it kind of democratizes access to
and it's the paradigm shift that you do. You want to give it away. Like I'm trying to make people take something that we're giving away. But we just have to say, kind of lower the barrier for access so people don't think they need to be supportive of somebody. Do something worthwhile with it.
Right.
If you can use a spreadsheet, you can work with this data.
I guess what is it that overwhelms most people? Is it fear of not knowing?
The presentation of the information, because it looks technical and
it's very loud.
It's very loud, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of kind of you're coming into it at very low level. There's no. It's like kind of like the restaurant thing where there's no front door. It's like you're going there for dinner, or you think you might be hungry, and also you're in the kitchen. Roughly know what to do. There's a lot happening.
That makes sense. Yeah. Everything you need is there, but it's just overwhelming.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. So presenting it in a way that's accessible to normal people who does it the other way. Kind of tell them stories that they understand, and then say, here's how the story was built. Now you can kind of use this framework to tell stories greater than interests you about your neighborhood or about something that's going on in the city of Austin or wherever.
Is there distraction?
It's getting there. Yeah. I'm volunteering for the city of Austin on a project to kind of make this happen. Because Austin
Yeah.
Just download the file. Work filter it, do whatever.
Manipulate it however,
Manipulate it however you want. You don't need to be a data scientist. You know, if you were an accountant or you ever you can do regular stuff. Yeah.
Pivot tables.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fascinating.
Wow. Yeah, no. And the thing is, too, that was really nice.
It's a software as a service platform, and the category is telematics. So we sell to companies that have really large workforces, gas companies, cable telecom, service companies, HVAC, all sorts of ones. And we track and optimize all of their assets.
Oh, wow.
Particularly with vehicles.
Yeah.
So vehicles, generators, rings, all. So let them know not just the basics of patient diagnostics, but very complex routing based on all sorts of external factors like traffic, weather patterns. Someone's going to be sick the next day. Reroute the entire 50,000 vehicles. Always that. Yeah, it's like a full chain of management maintenance. It's intense. But it takes, if you implement it, it's almost like an Oracle thing where you implement it takes like a year to really get it right.
Yeah.
And then you're off and running.
Yeah.
So it's a very involved system. It touches a lot of points. So it's complex to implement, but customers are very sticky.
Yeah.
Because to rip all that out and put something new in is a huge
or on site, sometimes you're running just like delivered somewhere.
Yeah.
How are we building on giant array or whatever? The routing things like, oh, it snowed or something happened.
Road closures.
Road closure.
Yeah.
Just the delay. They don't just leave those things sitting around. They're like backing they're booking them.
Yeah. No, so one of the oil and gas companies I worked with in 2014 and 2015, mostly 2015, they were doing very well buying up land in the Bakken area, and yeah, they would have a bulldozer that's $200,000. It may have been 5 miles away, but they weren't sure where it was, so they would just go buy another one. And they had lots of equipment. They would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every month on equipment. And so you pay, $30, $40 a month to track it. And boom, you always know where it is, and you can, the bulldozers or a dumpster's not needed over here, you can realize where it's going to be used more than most.
You can put together one where we can tell PowerPoint slides about that.
Oh, believe me, we've done all sorts of, case studies, very visual graphics. I mean, we've helped some of the largest groups in the country. Even little things, like if every vehicle saves 2 miles a day, over 9,000 vehicles a year, it's huge. Or just one extra job per week for every vehicle is hundreds of thousands of revenue additional to the company. So yeah, it really only takes a small increase in efficiency or effectiveness to really have this work itself. It's a pretty good system.
Oh, really? That's
the different things
why
that you can build into a system now and understand, all of, when it needs maintenance, all of these other factors, get a real that's the way that our industry is
going is, instead of, currently most of what we do is we put these sophisticated devices on equipment. It needs a lot of information, but some of the OEMs, Caterpillar, John Deere, Ford, GM, they're putting on their own stuff in the factory, and we're just tapping into that OEM. So it's already built in when the car runs off the manufacturing line, and then if one of our customers, has a order of 100 Fords delivered, we just line them up right away.
It's almost like a white box that's already in there.
Yeah.
You already know all of
It's already in there, and since it's wired in from the start, it reads a lot more data than just an aftermarket plug into the diagnostic.
Right.
So yeah, it's going in that direction. Most of the big manufacturers have it already. The problem is the data is not, what's the word? I want to say generalized, but some companies throw off different codes than other companies, so we have to translate different languages, right?
Normalize the data.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Precisely. But yeah, it's going in the right direction. It's going to take some time, but it's just becoming better and better. I feel like they would have started by now.
Okay. Again, very good. Yeah. So you learned as a business starter.
That's like the worst. The molded not even going up to snow. I hate that.
My daughter's having Santa Cruz, and it's snowing out there.
Oh my god.
It's in the hills. It's not down at ground level.
Right.
It's in the foothills.
That's still impressive.
Thank you so much for being here.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me all right? Hello. Good volume? Great. It's a little bit loud, I apologize. I'm Danny Lambert. I'm going to be running you through how to build a bulletproof marketing technology stack tonight. At parts of this presentation, it may get a little bit in-depth, and if you have any questions, you can kind of just hold on to them for the end. Because when I talk about this topic, it typically ends up being a lot of very unique problems to each one of you, which we can discuss afterwards, but it might take us a little bit off track during this presentation. And also, just to get an understanding of kind of who we have in the room, by show of hands, how many business owners do we have here tonight? Okay, that's a good amount. How many marketers? Students? Great. So that'll help me just kind of adjust the topics as we go through to your unique needs. So just a little bit about me. I just moved to Austin, Texas 3 weeks ago, so afterwards, if you want to come find me, I'm trying to make a lot of friends, meet some new people. I've already spoken to a bunch of you guys here tonight, and I love Austin, Texas so far. But the reason why I'm presenting tonight here is I've been in marketing technology, running demand gen, building marketing technology stacks for companies for the past 6 years in every vertical from healthcare to influencer marketing to e-commerce, you name it. I built the tech stacks for Eventbrite as well as Sales Hacker and a handful of others. So this is a topic that I'm very passionate about, and I also think that I can bring a unique perspective in terms of how to build a core technology stack if you don't have one in place, how it is that you can analyze new technologies that are coming out every day, because it seems like every time you open your eyes, there's a million new marketing technologies that's in your inbox, and you don't quite have the time to analyze it. And then how to do vendor comparisons to make sure that you're picking the right people to incorporate in your marketing technology stacks. So just a little bit about the state of the market. If you think back to 2011, there were roughly 150 marketing technologies available. And this is the marketing technology Lumascape. They do this report every year, and it shows you the total amount of marketing technology and other technology that's available. Last year, there were 7,000 technologies. That's enough where if you tried one new technology every single day, you could continue to do that for the next 19 plus years. And I have a feeling, given that you guys are business owners, etc., that's not something that you really want to do. So leading in, this presentation does make a couple of assumptions. It assumes that you already have a website stood up. If you don't, I'll go over that in a little bit of detail. But that's really important because most of these concepts are built on top of your existing website. If you don't have it, a lot of this won't be very relevant to you. It also assumes that you're relatively familiar with digital marketing concepts, similar to the website concept. If you don't have a decent understanding, we can talk about it after the fact, especially if some of this may go over your head. But it's important to understand what some of these acronyms that I use are, what some of these technology categories are. But given that you guys have some experience, I'm sure that you will. For those of you who don't have a website, it's a marketing technology stack, and then a website stack are like completely different things. You have hosting, DNS, a variety of other things. But if you don't have a website, my suggestion, sorry if you're developers, I know you won't like this, go with WordPress. A CMS is definitely the way to go. WordPress is by far the most popular CMS out there. You used to have Drupal and Joomla and a handful of others. Those have kind of faded away. The development support for those isn't that great, and you can very easily find PHP development support on Upwork or wherever else. It's a lot more customizable. You can use plugins and templates, and WordPress is really the way to go if you're setting up something that you want to be able to edit if you don't have development skills, and also allow other members of your team to do the same. Where I wouldn't recommend a WordPress is if you're in e-commerce. You could always use a WooCommerce plugin, which is a very prevalent one out there, but now that Shopify and Magento are so prevalent and have all these various plugins that you can use to your advantage, like Alibaba Express to immediately pull products from overseas into your shopping cart, secured payments, built-in SSL. These are all things that you want and you don't want to have to tack on with WordPress. So if you're starting fresh, I would use one of those two for your e-commerce shop. An important note here is not everyone's marketing technology stack is going to be the same, and they shouldn't. If you think about where all of our businesses come from, I was talking to Tattoo One Source before this and a handful of others. Check them out if you guys like tattoos, it's a really cool idea. But everyone's business is different. The technologies are verticalized in a lot of cases if you're in automotive and healthcare, and there's a lot of reasons why a technology that may work for you may not work for someone else. But there's also instances where you have marketing leading technologies that does make sense universally, and we'll get into what some of those are. But it's important not to just mimic other people and understand why it is that you're using the technology that you are. So the way that I like to think about these stacks is starting with your lead actors. So imagine your home. You wouldn't go buy a furniture or an area rug or whatever else before you have a foundation built. And the reason that's important is the main components are going to scale with your business over the next couple of years. These are those heavy-duty negotiations that you do with vendors, the really important components that you don't want to be turning over all the time, and you have to make sure to have the runway that you expect from a funding perspective, from a revenue perspective, to scale with your business. You don't want to have to change these items out because it's really going to be a big gut and replace, and you definitely don't want to be doing that. The most important being your CRM system. This is the source of truth for your entire business. This is where everything should run out of, not just sales and marketing. As you scale up, they have a huge developer ecosystem, they have a huge app exchange. All the various components of your business will plug into your CRM system. This includes configure, price quote, ERP, all those various things when you start to scale are going to be based off of the data that lives within your CRM system, and it should be that way for the foreseeable future. I always tend to recommend Salesforce, even though there are others like Microsoft Dynamics and Fusionsoft, some of these small business CRMs. Those are typically geared towards either small business, but once you move into the large to enterprise space, you should pretty much only be going with Salesforce. I know it's a very black and white statement, but you can really see them as a universal leader. In this diagram, the marketing automation platform comes before the CRM system. And although in theory that isn't the case, because that's your source of truth, in terms of how your leads and your information is funneling through your technology stack, technically the marketing automation platform is before this. This is where you can do all of your marketing campaigns, you analyze the performance, you do email tracks, SMS, push messaging. This is the home base from a marketing perspective. All the various third parties where you run all your ad campaigns, etc. through are going to centralize here, and that information is going to move from your marketing automation platform into your CRM and then down the funnel into what we talk here in a little bit about. And my suggestion in this space, again, not universally, is Marketo. They were just acquired by Adobe, which is a very interesting acquisition, particularly if you're in the B2B space. They're super strong functionality-wise, but they typically had pretty outdated UX UI, which you can imagine that Adobe's probably going to overhaul. But this, of the areas, is the one where you definitely have to do the most research. There's a lot of really strong players, Iterable, HubSpot, Pardot, a lot of other people that are very unique to specific situations. This might not work for you if you're in e-commerce. This might not work for you if you're in a specific vertical, and there's a lot of good players for marketing automation. Before that is data piping. So you have your CRM, you have your marketing tools, but how are you getting the data from the rest of the people in your technology stack? These are just your lead actors, but you better believe you'll have Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads and a million other things driving traffic and leads to your business. Those may not have to natively integrate like your lead actors do, but you also need a way to funnel that information into your primary stack. So we'll use Zapier as a primary example. This is a tool that essentially connects all the various open APIs throughout the web together so that you can do an action and reaction based on all of your various web tools. For example, we have a lead generation campaign that's running right now. When net new addressable leads come in, we want to determine what their territory is and send them a direct mail item that's centralized, let them know what customers we have in their region and how well they're performing. And these two tools wouldn't talk to each other. It's called Lob, and then obviously our marketing automation platform. So we put Zapier in the middle and we set up a trigger to say every time a lead comes in with these criteria in our marketing automation platform, tell Lob to send this direct mail. So now we send out thousands of direct mail a month without anyone touching anything. Without Zapier sitting in the middle, that wouldn't have been possible. Right? We'd have to export everything and then import it into Lob and trigger it that way, which is really, really inconvenient. The other one in this space, which it tends to be a little bit more enterprise level, is Segment. And this is a customer data platform, and if you run like a SaaS product, you're probably pretty familiar with what this is. It allows you to centralize all of your users' data and pipe it into all the various systems. Because I'm typically not just pumping it into one or two, right? It'll be multiple business intelligence tools, there'll be multiple other tools. You can set your events one time with one script on your website. Segment will then take that event and that information and push it out to all of the various tools at once that you tell it to. Extremely powerful, and you should definitely check it out if you haven't heard of it in the past. Tag management. We talked about Segment, putting that script on your site, and think about all of us. If we wanted to put the various Facebook scripts and LinkedIn scripts and whatever other scripts you may have on your website, you would traditionally have to ask your developer. Your developer's really busy, probably pushes back, and they want to review the code before they put it live. And then once it finally goes live, what if there's something wrong? You got to roll it back. It's a process. What Google Tag Manager does is it allows you to give them one snippet of code to your development team, they put it on the site, and then it puts that power back into your hands. I can put all the scripts on the site myself. I can preview before it goes live to make sure there won't be any issues. And then even if there are any issues, you can immediately roll it back without any help from your development team. This is a free tool. It's super powerful. It'll help both of you guys out, and it'll help your developers not get mad at you. And the last, but certainly not the least, is business intelligence. Similar to marketing automation platforms, there's a lot of different tools that you can use here. All of them have various reasons why you would go with them. You see a lot of people just using Google Analytics. It's free. It's a good solution. But say you want some more in-depth product analytics. Again, this very much applies to software as a service companies. You could use a Mixpanel or a Kissmetrics or you name it. It just depends on what your need is, understanding what it is that you want to plot that data. But this is equally as important as everything else in here because this is going to be how you determine what's working and what's not working. You could run all the upper part of your stack perfectly well, but if you're not able to say what money is bringing the biggest return on investment, there's really no point in having that there in the first place because you won't know where to reinvest. So we talk about supporting cast, right? The things that hook into a Zapier, a segment that also contribute. And these are equally as important, but a lot more difficult to figure out what makes sense for you. I start to outline, some of the various categories that exist here, and there's a lot of them. You'll see your leading actors in the middle, and these are all your supporting cast. And the hardest part of choosing a marketing technology stack is taking it from this slide down to what matters to your business, right? Because this is where you're starting to do the research of what are the qualitative things that I know people are using well in our space, and not just like the universally accepted principles. You want to be able to cut this down to this. And I work at a healthcare IT company right now, and this is exactly what ours look like. And we dumbed it down from the options that we had available first. And I'm going to go through now kind of a live presentation to show you how you go about doing that. The important thing to note here is this falls into two buckets based on the maturity of your company. If you're net new and a lot of this sounds foreign to you and you don't have a technology stack together at all, it's going to be a very different vetting process than if you're an existing business that has a pre-established stack and you're going through the process of just hearing what's out there in the marketplace and figuring out what you want to adopt. So I'm going to split it down into those two buckets. Here are some of the vendors that we have on the screen. I'm going to loop through these in order. I just want to put them up here so you can see them. And I believe this deck will be distributed when we're done here. So I'm not going to cover this slide too heavily. You'll just see it in practice as I run through. I don't really have a way to hold this. So let's pretend we're a fictional company. Let's say I'm a net new business and I'm trying to figure out what other tools I need to incorporate in my stack. I'm going to use a company called Drift.com. They're a live chat provider. They're really good. Their marketing is extremely strong. If you're trying to follow someone who's doing it correctly, they're a very good example of that. So we'll pretend in this demonstration that I'm Drift. And I know that their big competitors are live chat, Snap Engage. Is it alright if I don't use the mic for this?
It's fine.
Yeah.
This is going to be pretty tough if I just use that. Can you hear me alright?
Yeah.
Okay, so live chat, Snap Engage, and Intercom are big competitors. And this would be you going in and saying the competitors that you know that are out there in the space and just typing them into Google. And the fastest way to find out, just from an initial perspective of what you should be investing your time in, from that graphic I showed earlier, is to use a Chrome extension called Datanize. It's a free tool. They do have paid plans, but you'll probably never hit it. And essentially what it allows me to do is come to any site on the web, click their extension, and you'll see those categories I was talking about on the right here. Right? A/B testing, advertising networks, customer data platforms. There's segment right there. We just went over how that was relevant to you. So you can start to see what technologies your competitors are using and the exact vendor for those technologies that they're using. And then as you start to go through your various competitors, you'll start to see the trends. What categories they're using, which is the most important, right? That's cutting it down to what's working for them. And then you'll have a list of vendors to start vetting once you've determined what it is that you need.
What's it called?
Datanize. So I scroll through here and I'll start to see all their technologies. And it's really powerful because if you're just starting out, there's no reason that you have to do more work than is necessary. All these people have already tried these vendors, and if there's a commonality between multiple competitors of yours, it's a good inclination that that tool is something that makes sense for your industry. So I'll go through here, and I'll figure out those categories, I'll write down those vendors, and that will be my initial list as a new business. Come back. So as an existing business, it's a little bit different, right? You already have determined all these things, you've already tested a lot of these tools, and now you want to make sure that you're keeping on top of the stuff that's coming out on a day-to-day basis. And imagine this scenario. If you had hopped on Google Ads initially, or Facebook Ads initially, or even Quora most recently, how much more success would you have had than joining now, right? You can see the cost per click going up every day on Facebook. But if you were there in the early setting, that could have scaled your business in and of itself by just being on there as an early adopter. And we could miss these unicorns of tomorrow if, as marketing leaders, we're not paying attention. But when there's 7,000 new technologies coming out every year, it's really hard. So the point of this section is to figure out, where do I need to be looking, what do I need to be listening to know what those kind of inconvenient components of what you know you need to do in life, but you really don't want to do. And this typically will fall into that. And the best way to manage it is just block out an hour and a half to 2 hours of your time every week on your calendar where no one can disrupt you. You won't just block it off or delete it. And take time to go over marketing trends, marketing technology, and make sure you do it on a consistent basis. Because you'll start to see these tools and these concepts and things that you want to learn throughout the week, but you're too busy to do it. If you have that 2 hours every Friday where you don't really want to be working anyway, but you want to do something productive, do it then. Because if it's on your calendar, you'll absolutely do it. The next big one is to use marketing technology blogs. So if you follow Single Grain or Neil Patel's blog or Social Media Examiner, over time they'll start to adopt these tools natively because they need to contribute to this blog every single week and they need to bring fresh material. So they'll start to find the tools before you'll find the tools. You also find them on LinkedIn, follow them, YouTube, follow them there. But one of the really surprising ones that a lot of people don't think about is the top players in the space. Use this segment again, for example, because they're a really good hub for all of this. How do they plan their integrations? They plan it based off market demand, right? Who's introducing what tools need to integrate with their tool to make a better future? So every week, if you're checking their integrations page, they're going to start introducing tools that are becoming new to the market, but there's a high enough demand for from the developers, from people in Silicon Valley raising their hand and saying, this is a tool that's relevant to me. And it's a great place to start to find that information. The last two that I have on here is G2 Crowd and Datanyze in a different format. So if you go to G2 Crowd, and now we're going to pretend that I'm looking for Marketo alternatives. I identified that I want a marketing automation platform. I thought that Marketo looked good because I saw it on somebody else's site. But I want to see all the different things that were available in their space. G2 Crowd is very unique in that they have the Magic Quadrant, and I think this was something that they famously introduced that allows you to immediately see every single vendor that they're up against in the market with number of reviews, where they're positioned competitively. This is a really good starting point once you've identified there's the technology you need to get a comprehensive list of vendors that you should be comparing. Also, if you use Datanyze again, but in the web format and not the extension, again, this is all free. I haven't showed you anything that's paid up to this point. And say I'm still looking at Marketo and want to know who else I should be examining. I can type in Marketo here. There they are. It tells me that they're in the marketing automation category. And not only will it show me all of the competitors, it'll also show me the adoption rates. Along this right-hand column in results is every time that their script is shown on the web, they're scraping that information. So you're getting a complete breakdown of market share by marketing automation platform just by putting it in here. And if you look across this left-hand side, these are all the various categories that I showed earlier. Right? If you're looking for a demand-side platform or an ad network, you can just come in here and find all the various competitors by their market share just by using Datanyze and G2 Crowd. So at this point, what you have is your core technology stack and a whole bunch of other technologies that you want to analyze. And for this exact one, we'll say we're trying to analyze the marketing automation platform, and we know that a lot of our competitors are using Marketo. And we want to make sure that we know how to vet the various vendors against each other to make the right decision for our business, which is oftentimes the hardest, right? This is a 2-week to 4-month process depending on what size of the purchase, and you need to make sure you're doing an apples-to-apples comparison. Because what will ultimately happen is you'll have a call or a couple calls right out of the gate with vendors, and as this gets drawn out, you forgot what the initial conversation was, what their features were, and it starts to muddy the waters, and you'll oftentimes go with who put on the best sales call and not necessarily who has the best features for your business. So before you even start this, my favorite question of all is what is the business outcome that you're trying to achieve? A lot of times when you see this technology in front of your face, you say to yourself, wow, this is cool, I think I can fit this into the stack. But if you're optimizing for video views or something that's irrelevant to your business when your outcomes, your MBOs, your OKRs are sales-based, and this tool isn't going to contribute to that, don't even waste your time. Because we'll all go down those holes and we'll get to the end of it and be like, wow, this hasn't helped me achieve anything that's relevant for our business outcomes. If you've determined that it is, you can create this marketing technology matrix. It's a very basic sheet, but it's super helpful in doing that apples-to-apples comparison that I was mentioning. You'll take all the various vendors that we just identified, right? We went to Marketo, we went to G2 Crowd, we went to Datanyze, and we're able to find all the vendors that we think make sense to be analyzed in this context. And we'll list them across the top. And we have our color coding, love, like, and hate across the right-hand side. And some of them are really a hate. But before you even get going on these features, there's 3 that you should do right off the bat, because you can cut out half of the list based on these 3 features alone.
price being first. If you get the price for every vendor, some will be enterprise, some will be small business. You can immediately cut out half the list based on if you can't afford it or they're too junior for you. Ease of use is another one. A lot of times as marketers, we are the buyer of technology, but we're not the end user. So you have to be in their seat wondering, if I hand this over to my staff to do it, is this easy enough for them to use, easy enough for them to get trained on, the right documentation? If it's not and they're not going to use it, don't waste your time, don't waste the vendor's time, it's never going to work. And the third, being the most important of all, is integrations. If it doesn't have that level of integration that you need, whether it's native, if it's in your core stack, or if it's being able to get hooked up via Zapier or Segment like we talked about as a secondary marketing technology in your stack. If it can't do those things, you probably shouldn't be including them because it would be a nightmare of CSV uploads and re-uploading for the rest of your days using that software. So beyond that, how do you find the rest of the features that belong here? And there's a couple of main ways to do this. My favorite way is to go to all the various pricing pages of these companies. They'll typically do tiered breakdowns, feature by feature, what you get at each pricing point. And that'll be about 40% of the features that you need on its left-hand side. Then you go to the features page, and it'll have another more comprehensive list because they want to show off, we have more features than HubSpot, and they'll list every feature under the sun. And now you've got about 80% of those. And if you need to get the remaining features, there's a website called GetApp. And then again, we can go back to G2 Crowd. And within here, they have pricing, they have reviews. You can even select two vendors and do side-by-side comparisons. Granted, it's not always 100% right because it's written by analysts, not people who actually use the software. But if you go to this features page, this is exactly that. This is every single feature that it offers within, I'd say, 90% of what they actually have. And if you go to G2 Crowd and you want to confirm that, you can do the same thing here as well. You're in the vendors page, and you click on features. And right here is that same breakdown. So that'll be able to complete your tool matrix. At this point, we have the category that we want, which is marketing automation software, the main vendor that we had, which is Marketo, all of the viable solutions that we feel could compete against Marketo, which is your top line, and then all the people that we have feature comparisons on. At this point, you can dumb it down to the 2 or 3 people that you actually want to have those sales conversations with, go in deep with them, make sure they meet all your needs, and during this time, think about customer support and runway. There's too many times we've been hurt pre-deal, we've made a decision based on them wowing us with their sales team because they have better training than the other person, or they have great marketing dollars. But at the end of the day, they aren't going to support us after implementation, and we needed that. And those are things, including runway, they don't have enough funding, you're going to be put in a dangerous situation, later on having to rip them out. That's another thing that you don't want to have to get stuck with. So after you've done all these things, and you've selected a vendor, you can move forward with them and make your most informed decision. And I figured since I was obviously talking marketing technology stacks, I should probably share my current marketing technology stack with you guys. And I'm not going to go through every technology on here, but I think one of the most potent points is, even within my lead actors, you'll notice it isn't the recommendation that I made to you guys. You'll notice that the marketing automation platform that we use is part on it. And that's to illustrate that it is circumstantial. If I don't have the money for a certain system, if it doesn't make sense with other components of our stack, for us in healthcare and our heavy B2B focus, and a lot of other contributing factors that are too in the weeds, we decided to go part on over Marketo. Although if I were starting from scratch, I would suggest that. And that just speaks to how much you should really think about your business as a unique entity when you're analyzing these vendors. And down here in the bottom is all my supporting stats, but I want to call out a couple of them because these are very interesting in that they can be point solutions, and that's not a problem. A lot of it that we've talked about is they should integrate very well, but there are times where you're going to need a tool for one unique thing, and you can use it for a month or two and then cut it out of your stack. We talked before about direct mail. There's a very unique vendor on here called Perlum. We're saying direct mail, and we had a really hard time tracking the effectiveness of it. So I was like, how can I send a personalized URL to someone so I know when they click on that they visit our website? And that's exactly what this service did for us. It would generate a unique URL for every direct mail piece that we sent on the door. If they clicked on it and landed on our website, we knew that Tom from Arkansas was there, and we could personalize the entire web page based on that experience. We could put his name on there, his company logo. We could change all of the page content because now we know Tom in Arkansas is on our website and he came here from that direct mail piece. And we can cut that out. It's a month-to-month contract. It's like $100. And that's a point solution that made sense for us at the time. Another one here being co-schedule. Does anyone here run content, have blog posts? Like, are you managing that editorial process? Is that a pain in the ass?
Oh, yeah.
This is one of those tools that's really, really powerful because it rolls up 3 other tools within our stack, and that's where this research comes in handy. Is I needed a couple of things. I needed social media scheduling and analytics. I needed somewhere to manage all of the content that we're producing through all of our outsourced vendors, and also a way to publish that to our WordPress blog without having to do all of that manually. CoSchedule does all of this. I can find my writers, put all of my Google Drives inside of it, schedule all of it, compensate them through because we hooked it up through Zapier, and automatically post it to WordPress and schedule our social media posts and analyze their performance all within one software. Really, really good if you guys are an editorial. And then the last one on here, and honestly something scheduling pretty positive on most of these, is Clearbit. One of the problems that we have with the SDR team, and this is thinking business outcome first, right? We didn't just want to try Clearbit out of the blue. We had a problem where our SDRs were manually entering all of this data every time a lead came in. We get first name, last name, and whatever the other 4 form fields were. But there's a lot more that they need. You know, number of providers, specialty, a handful of other things, and we didn't want them to have to manually look this up. So what Clearbit does is it sits in between your marketing automation platform and your lead forms on your website, and as soon as someone submits it, it'll hit their massive database, and it'll bring back all the attributes they have, and it's like 150 data points or more on all these people, append those to your record, and then ship it into your systems. So that way they will get an 80% match rate and won't have to look up all that information that they had in the past for 8 out of 10 contacts coming into our system. You can imagine how much time that saves. So this is just a brief overview. I hope you guys found this valuable. I really appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, we'll open the floor up to those. Any questions?
So, I'm Jaeger from Tattoo One Source. Thanks for the shout out. I'm using.
I don't like tattoos.
Yeah, I have a WordPress site with a theme with a lot of custom work, and for integration, I'm using WP Fusion and Kartra.
Yep.
These, what's your opinion on?
It's not really in my space so much.
No?
I mean, I'm aware of them.
Yeah.
I don't know anything negative about them, but I don't typically run most of my stuff off of stuff that integrates directly with WordPress. Is typically a little bit larger than that. With B2Bs, we have some pretty expensive software, but I don't know anything negative about either of those. It's more of a question of how has it been working for you.
It's still fairly new, but I haven't had any problems once it got linked up.
Yeah. If you want to send, you have my email. If you want to send it to me, I can do like a little bit more research on it,
Yeah,
so I can be more informed and we can talk about it. But yeah, if you don't find that it's causing you any pain and it's doing what it is that they said they would do, I wouldn't be too worried about it, especially if you did your due diligence. But I'd be happy to look into that for you.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about software you use to manage your ad campaigns, Google, Facebook? Do you do it directly?
Yeah, so we do it directly now. In the past, we had used Espresso, and they were okay. They're one of the bigger vendors that does that. We'd had agencies do it for us in the past, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing if you get it as a percentage of spend. If you do get it on like a monthly rate, you're in that bucket, you'll typically end up getting ripped off. Is to make sure you hire someone good. If I were to go that route, I would probably start with Disruptive. They're a really good ad management firm. The one thing where we have been exploring with spending our money uniquely is with moving into over the top. So like Hulu and stuff that's out of home, so digitized billboards and that kind of buying, and centralizing that through a demand side platform. So if we have any like media buyers in the room, that's kind of like a higher level advanced way, but it's going to start moving that direction where everything's programmatic through like a centralized platform. Like you even saw formerly DoubleClick by Google just recently changed, and now they like rolled up all their different advertising into one managed platform. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where you can manage all these channels in one spot.
What was the agency you mentioned?
Disruptive. Anybody else?
We got another one.
Yeah, go for it.
SEO. So you mentioned one on there.
Ahrefs?
Yeah.
Ahrefs is by far the best SEO tool.
Yeah.
If you're ever looking, don't. They're the number one. And there's a lot of other options. I'm sorry if any of you sell SEO tools in this room, but they're by far the best.
What is it called?
Ahrefs. I'll back it up.
Ahrefs.
Yeah, like the link. Yeah, like you're doing like a tag.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, I'll pull it back up for you guys.
Do you use anything else on top of that, or?
Yeah, so if you're running WordPress, again, why I freaking love WordPress.
Okay.
You need a bunch to be effective at SEO. Like this is something you really have to research well or hire someone who knows it very well. Is you will want Bing Webmaster Tools, Google Search Console for actually submitting your sitemaps to so they can get crawled easily. But if you have Yoast SEO plugin on your WordPress site, it'll automatically do that stuff for you. So that combination, we use, I'll actually go through this in depth, we have a little bit of time. Ahrefs is how we drive our content schedule. The vast majority of the content that we do is SEO focused, keyword research, and then we have some thought leadership for like these really enterprise level targets that we want to target. But most of it will start out of Ahrefs. You'll start to see where we can win easily keyword wise, where there's a lot of traffic. We'll create our content schedule. We'll send out to those writers via co-schedule like I mentioned. And then once we publish it live, we'll optimize it for Schema, for Facebook, for LinkedIn, for all that stuff. Either via Google Tag Manager, because you can actually implement Schema Tags through Google Tag Manager right now, which is friggin' awesome. And you can also then just do the rest of this within the Yoast plugin, and you have a fully optimized blog post without having to have like any really difficult coding for your developers to do or anything on top of that.
What is Schema Tags?
Schema's kind of the new generation of SEO. I'd say one step before voice, which if you guys aren't starting to think about voice in your SEO strategy, that's going to be a very, very big deal. Essentially like rewrite your content. Is that a big deal, or is that at least what people are predicting? But Schema Tags is how people will set, you ever like Google like movie reviews and you get the stars? That's additional code that people will put. If it's a recipe, you get recipes and all this various little metadata that comes up. You actually can embed that in a post to say, hey Google, I want you to take this and prioritize it and say, this is a product review, this is the star review, this is a movie, and it uses that to like show all that stuff across the web.
So, thank you for showing your desktop because it lets me see the extensions that you're using there. So
I'll share everything. If you guys have any questions, like I've done so much, especially around productivity, if that's a pain point for you guys, I have a million great tools. So if you want to know like my list comprehensively, just email me after.
Awesome, I will. Any special ones that use them for Tag Manager? Like special extensions, data slayer, any of that kind of stuff? No, you don't get into that.
Not typically. Most of my tag management, I might use some if I'm doing like a really complex write-up of something, like if I'm writing cookies, there's a couple things that I'll have for like cookie management and setting them in a browser through Tag Manager. But for the most part, I'll either just use like the native integrations that they have in there, or everything will just be that custom JavaScript tag, and I'll just code it myself and ship it.
And do you use Google Data Studio? Do you output to that and use that for dashboarding and stuff like that?
If I'm on a budget, I'll use that. Yeah. Like that's kind of the point about the BI tools.
Oh, right.
Because you have the whole range of tools available to you, and it's depending on your need. If you are just fine getting away with only using GA and maybe some offline data, you can absolutely use Google Data Studio. Where they kind of lack now, because they do have Google 360 Suite, which is their enterprise level, but it's like $100,000 minimum to use, and I mean like really enterprise, where they let you bring in all of your third-party data from all these various systems and analyze that as well. Because for some of you guys who may be using this, you'll end up getting to a point where you're too big for a GA, but you don't have, you know, like a Google 360 Suite, and you're either going to need a company like Funnel that sits in the middle and puts your stuff into a data warehouse, maybe Snowflake or Redshift or wherever, and you can sit a BI tool on top of that. Because what you want to see is across the entire lifespan of a lead, what that's worth, every touch point they had, and you can't just do it in each one of these disparate systems. Another option for that is multi-touch attribution tools. So there's like Visible and a handful others out there that won't just take, you know, lead creation touch or first creation touch, whatever. It will take every single touch point, including offline. So we're even including in our reporting, meeting people at trade shows, phone calls, and we're able to like put a different weighting on that based on where that falls in their opportunity life cycle, so we can see the entirety of our ROI, not just a couple points that a GA would give you. I think I saw yours first.
I've used different technologies to find influencers for marketing campaigns, but are there any technologies or tactics that you can recommend to help monitor the data of the traction that you get from using or partnering with an influencer?
Not affordably. So that's a pretty expensive one. Yeah, we could probably talk offline about that one. That's a little bit of a harder question because that's so new, and it really depends on what your budget ranges are. If you're doing like these micro-influencer campaigns, the tools that you would be using to analyze them are probably more expensive than the influencers that are actually publishing on your behalf.
Super helpful, Danny. Thanks for going through all that.
Appreciate that.
I get the impression that you're constantly testing and tweaking and making notes for yourself, which I love. I'm curious, what do you use before something will hit, say, like your pillar or supporting staff, as you're kind of like testing or tweaking or making your own notes? Is that like a Google Doc? I saw the Google Doc matrix that you had. Does it live in there? yourself, how do you stay organized with all these different tools and notes? Is that just one big Google Doc, or?
I like Evernote, because typically my process when I find anything new that I like is it'll either go through voice. I'll say, hey Siri, whoever, add this to my list, again through Zapier or IFTTT. If any of you ever used if this then that, I'll do it via voice if I'm on the road. I'll put it into my notes in my phone if I'm on the run, or if I'm at my computer, I'll sync it into Evernote, and then all of them will get dumped via Zapier into one Google Doc. And then if I'm doing it every week, like I suggested, it won't get large enough where you'll get in here and be like, what the hell is this thing? I don't remember when I saw this. You'll be managing that, and you'll be able to look at it, once a week in that setting. And even a lot of times, I'll feel really passionate about something when I put it on, and at the end of the week, when I have a fresh perspective, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to use this. This is a waste of time.
So everything goes into an Evernote. You use if this then that to push that to a Google Doc, and then once a week you review that Google Doc.
Yeah, if this then that, or Zapier, depending on what tool, because they don't have the exact same instructions.
Cool, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, welcome to Austin.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Again, if anyone's looking for friends, I'd like to happy hour hard.
My question is about kind of I've been creating these UTM links for like 6 months or a year, and I don't know how to figure out where my leads are coming from. So I was wondering if you do any talks or have any kind of tips on what to do with these UTM links and how to figure out, where people are coming from.
Yeah.
Since I've been producing them and people are clicking on them, I just don't know what to do with all the information.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Because when you're making them at first, you think it'll be manageable, and then you make more of them, and you make more of them, and you forget. Actually, my old company that I used to work for, let's see if I can pull it up, built a free tool. It's effing amazing, this UTM builder, and if you go to their website, they have a downloadable extension for this, where you can set all of your UTMs, and what you'll do is you'll go to the link where you want it to send them to, you'll click it, and it'll have all of your predispositioned UTMs, so you're not ever typing anything new unless you're adding like a net new UTM.
Right.
It'll generate it for you, and that way you don't have to have a spreadsheet a million rows long where you're just like constantly mixing it up. So that should help you from that.
I appreciate that. I think I'll use that. My question is more about once they're already created, how do I what are we supposed to, I don't know why I'm using them. I was told I was told that
I totally missed that. So yes, I can absolutely, that's kind of like a different topic like you did mention. You can go on my YouTube channel. I think I even have a video on that specifically. And if not, I can make it for you. Like, it's not that hard. But that would be within your Google Analytics reporting, which I hope you probably would have set up at this point.
We do have that set up. I just don't know how to read it to tell which people are coming from where.
Yeah, if you don't mind saying it afterwards, I can make that video. It's a quick one. I'm sure a lot of people probably have that question. Yeah, no problem, man. Anybody else?
You mentioned voice as a future channel for search. Are there any tools or resources you would recommend for figuring out a strategy on how to tackle that?
Read a lot. The areas where you really want to focus on this are the people who have been SEO influencers for a really, really long time. So like Rand Fishkin, Neil Patel, Search Engine Land, Search Marketing Land. They've been talking about it for like 8 months, and what you'll typically see is a pretty big build-up, and then a pretty lackluster initial implosion, and then it'll come hard, right? Google will change their algorithms, and then everyone's going to get hurt by it. And it probably won't affect you guys. It typically will affect people who are doing on the borderline of like black hat SEO, or they decide to go after like a specific industry, which happened recently with healthcare. But you just want to make sure you're familiar with the concepts, because the way that we search via voice on our phone is very different than the way that we would search on the web. And a lot of what people are speculating is that it's going to start optimizing for content that is oriented towards voice and answering questions in the way that you or I would in this setting. So I would read those blogs. I can send you guys a couple afterwards if you shoot me an email that I'm pretty fond of, because they're definitely giving good positioning stance on what you should be considering as it starts to come up in the next couple of months. Any other questions?
Any tips when dealing with these vendors, like how you negotiate or how you go through the process, make sure you're getting a good deal?
From what aspect? Is it like trying to make sure that it's the right?
Focusing on price.
On price?
Yeah.
I just put them against each other.
Yeah.
I just tell them a complete bunch of bull about what someone just offered me, and then let them offer me something lower, and then bring that back to them, and then they go at each other. Because no one gets more pissed off when you talk to a vendor about the person they're on every single call with. If you called HubSpot and be like, oh man, Marketo's giving you way less than that.
Yeah.
No, they're not. Like, as long as you're not being ridiculous, they'll believe you. And they're going to go to their boss, especially if you wait till the end of the quarter, which is the perfect time to buy. Don't ever buy in the first month of their quarter. Go to them and just pin them against each other and just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until eventually someone's like, I can't go lower than that. We just we're negotiating with Drift, and they're like, we don't ever go below $1,500. I guess we can't work with you. And they threw in like 5 additional licenses. They didn't go below $1,500, but I would have had to buy those at $150 a person. So at least they broke on something.
I worked in sales. It's absolutely true.
I do a lot of these conversations.
What's the Peter Drucker book?
Effective Executive. Every Peter Drucker book is good. If you guys are into like management philosophy, he's my favorite author by far.
Any marketing books you like?
I'll take a picture of my bookshelf if that would help you. There's too many to name. I actually think some of the best marketing books, not around tools specifically, but about concepts, is actual psychology-based books. Not even so much the marketing, because a lot of that is very tactical. I like the Lean series. Again, not very marketing focused, but it walks you through a lot of like what you should be doing instead of how you should do it. This is very tactical, but I can share them with you afterwards. Maybe I'll just take a picture of my bookshelf and like send it to all of you, because I read about 4 or 5 books a month, and most of them that I like the most end up being, older psychology or management books that tell you more of the why than the how. Yes.
You talk a lot about some of the like the demand generation, like Marketo and Pardot, and I think of those as being more for enterprise level. What systems do you recommend for smaller businesses?
What do you need to do?
I mean, because right now we use MailChimp.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's a really good option for that.
So I was just thinking if there was something else that we should be considering.
Fresh Sales, that they have a whole suite now. They serve that market. So they have like Fresh Desk, which is like the help solution, but I believe they also have a marketing automation and sales. Infusionsoft, Sharp Spring, in no particular order. These are just some people that I know play in that space. And if you do what I just showed you with that magic quadrant, there's 2 tools that I didn't show you also, which are very helpful. Owler, so when I have a vendor, this is the first place that I go. It does 2 things. If any of you use Google Alerts to like monitor your competitors, you can also come in here and you can subscribe to their feeds. Anytime they have a press release, anytime they put out anything newsworthy, it'll immediately get sent to your inbox. And it also gives you like revenue, CEO, some various other information that you may be interested in. But you'll notice, let's put in Marketo. Acton's another one. So let's click into them. And these will be the people that play in that space in budget region. So if I put in MailChimp, I'd probably get some of the providers in here that are head-to-head with them. Yep, Aweber is like their biggest competitor from an email perspective. So this is a really good place. Oh, yes, Autopilot. Check out Autopilot.
What are they? They're also like the MailChimp?
Yeah, they are a next level higher. To build out stuff, they have crazy customization. Actually, sometimes I prefer them. Like if I'm telling people like consulting on a stack, I would prefer them to use that because it opens up a lot of flexibility versus some of these are very rigid, especially in the lower price points. There's a little bit, I wouldn't say development heavy, but you have to have a little bit more technical expertise to use them. But you can do so much more and get so much further before having to jump to the next level of pricing tier. But even Active Campaign and Campaign Monitor on here are good. 2 other tools if you're doing this that I like. There's a company called Siftery. They were just acquired by G2 Crowd, so they're pretty legit. If you come in here and you type in Marketo, my favorite thing about them is not only will they tell you who their biggest competitors are, it'll tell you the exact percentage of customers that moved off of them to their competitor. So if I'm in this section right here, it's saying 20% of them moved to Eloqua, 42% moved to HubSpot, and 37.2% moved to Pardot. Now you know who their biggest competitors are by percentage market share lost. That's another good tool. And the third is one called Alternative 2. And this is like my least favorite because I feel like they're probably going to either get bought out by G2 Crowd or eventually fade away, but they're still a good source. You would type in Marketo again, and then here's MailChimp like you just discussed. And this is on like a like factor, so you can start to see whichever ones have the most like. Get response is another good option. There's so many in the marketing automation space that way they're doing that. But hopefully that's helpful. But I would definitely use Owler and start working through those and check out Autopilot, Campaign Monitor, and Active Campaign.
Are you
traction because you want all the features that come with having a true native integration. And HubSpot is a little bit more of a third-party installed package where you can't quite do as much with it. But I think for the price, HubSpot may arguably be my favorite marketing automation platform. And their innovations are really good. They're on top of everything that's coming out. So, yes.
Is there any reason to use a paid tag management solution like Telium?
Not that I see. You know, I'm not at the level, maybe some, like if I were doing this in product and not just on the corporate website, there may be reasons beyond my understanding. But I've never really spoken to anyone that, we used to use this in product too at my old influencer marketing company I worked for, and we had no problems using the free Google Tag Manager. But I'm sure there are probably reasons why you would go with Telium. I just don't know what they are. Anything else? Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Daniel, would you show your email address again on the slide?
Yeah. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'll leave this up. It's Plush Republic. Fine, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. It's been a refreshing not weather-wise.
You've been doing that? Yeah, I've been teaching. Yeah, hi. Hey, Grant.
Your question is, where the people are coming from?
Yeah, it's not actually. And I'm trying to like.
But you want to understand which campaign is good?
Pretty much. Yeah. It's a part of it.
No, I misunderstood you.
Okay.
I have this different traction token, and then like other sides figure out what to do. Hey, this company is this side, this company is this side. They don't know. Well, you do know. They have a lot of stuff. But you also know, like, for example, information about the company.
Oh, you do business to business?
Yeah, I do business.
Oh, okay.
I do business, and I need just
There's so much. Where do I begin? I've that's all you want. Opened up. So get it.
zero.
Oh, okay. No, you're enlisted then? That seems like the way, yeah.
You guys know washing machines. We don't.
It's all about business and like almost marketing.